What's up, everybody?
Morning.
Good morning, Bernie. How are you?
Do we really want to say it's good morning? Maybe it's good evening.
Well, whatever.
Whatever time you're listening.
Well, we're back, and hey, I just want to kind of say, Bernie, you've gotten some text messages, some voicemails. I've gotten some DMs. Just we're adding value.
Yeah.
So
we're adding value.
We really appreciate the feedback and
Send
the
me
5-star
more messages
reviews.
than Steve.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling a little underloved out there, guys. The messages that Bernie's getting is more love than I'm getting. So what the hell?
Because I'm the co-host.
Apparently, I'm the co-host at this point.
I'm the co-host, so everybody can access me. You're too busy. You're too big time.
So for those of you that don't know, swear to God, we sit in these chairs and we come up with topic. And one thing that came up was 2 common goals that I think are truly missing in people's goal sets right now. And I think you said you had a conversation with some people
lately.
And I had it kind of come up yesterday after I was part of this really great group that was created. I was with some real what did I call them yesterday? Like, they were guys that, you know, I watched grow up. They're old guard, right? So Russell Shaw, Mike Mendoza, it was kind of interesting to be in that group because those were guys that
the OGs.
I grew up watching competing with my dad.
Totally.
And
oh my
so
God,
to
that's crazy.
sit on the same Zoom call with them was pretty interesting. Maybe we can get Russell Shaw in here and his DJ voice.
Neither one of us would get a word in.
Oh, but he's so funny.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, he's a crack up.
Put a mic in front of that guy. That's stand up. We'd have to change the name of the show for one episode.
Russell's done some outside the box stuff over the years. I mean,
sure.
Hi, I'm Russell Shaw. I'm applying for a job. Fire me if you don't.
I love that. That was actually probably one of my favorite marketing that he did.
But there's 2 common goals, and here's what I got out of it yesterday. You know, typical, you know, whether it's real estate or, you know, you're in insurance or whatever, I think this is a common goal that people don't talk about. We talk about increasing income. We talk about increasing transactions. And I might even throw a third goal in here is that contribution or giving is missing. You know, hey, what do you want to give this year? Where do you want to contribute?
Or make a difference, right?
Right.
So,
or make a difference.
Yeah.
And then net worth. And I think net worth is a very common thing that people don't talk about. If you don't know what net worth means, it means your assets minus your liabilities equal your net worth. So if you're going the wrong direction, it's not a good thing.
well, and I think that's a huge point because so many people focus on wealth and income.
Right.
But does that really, how is that equating to your net worth? And
at the end of the day,
your net worth should
right,
be growing with every day that passes.
Right. So are you, at the end of the year, are you doing a personal financial statement?
I mean, at a half century.
At a half century. I know. What's it feel like to be 50?
It feels pretty good.
Oh, good.
ZFG.
What?
0 given.
Oh, so I have to be 50 to get there. I think I've already
You've
surpassed
already been
that.
there for a while. Sorry. I hardly ever cuss too, so pardon me.
Oh, welcome to the crowd.
I usually don't cuss on here.
So what were the conversations you had the last couple of days with some agents?
It's been really cool because so many folks are really realizing that, you know, transactions aren't sexy talk anymore, right? Like, how many transactions have you done? It's really more about like the fulfillment. I mean, you know, I think it was Brian that said it on our podcast, but he's like, one great thing about 2020 is it kind of humanized people a little bit. So are people coming kind of out of that and realizing that, okay, if I'm going to work in real estate, like, what am I going to be really passionate about? I mean, transactions aren't, but the stories attached to those transactions or the ways that people are making differences or how an agent is fighting for their client because they have a little boy with cancer or how they're fighting for their clients because these guys have been looking for a house forever and they're about to get evicted or, you know what I mean? Just that contribution piece and that making a difference and then returning some of that money back to causes that they're passionate about or have created, right? I mean, I talked to an agent the other day, Creative Foundation. You know, he's very passionate about missing children. So instead of taking money from his transactions and donating it to existing causes, he created one because he knows where that money is going. It's all fully separate, but it's given him this big jolt and passion for his business, right? It's giving him motivation and it's not transactional anymore. It's more about, okay, I'm not going to attach to the results. I'm attaching to the cause. Right. And the purpose or the intention or the story or the people that they're helping.
Right.
So it's been pretty cool. It's very, it's really refreshing. I mean, I started in this business when it was like the boiler room mentality of doing deals.
Yeah.
Like all my clients were deal junkies. That's all we talked about was how they're going to get more business.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I heard in that call yesterday was, it was going through, they were talking about the disruptors in the business, and
my favorite word.
Of course, I get a little aggravated when it comes down to that because we assume that somebody needs something out of this transaction rather than trying to go back and solve the problem. And there's so many different ways to solve the problem. Yeah. And that's where, a big piece of my contribution comes from is that, how do I help people solve problems? So we talked about doing real estate stories. So here's really a cool story. And I don't know, did we share, Kyle, the VA story, with our buyers?
That hasn't been, no.
Okay. It's closing today, actually. And so when I look at how I get to contribute, it's how do I get to solve the greatest problem? And so there's a lot of buyers out there right now, especially the VA buyers that are really getting hammered.
They're getting crushed.
And they don't have any other source to fulfill their dream right now. And so we had some really good friends of ours. He's a Marine veteran, served a tour in Iraq or two. He also works for Phoenix PD. His wife is in a lower income elementary district, and she does social work. Just a great couple that we've known for a long time. And for the last 6 months, they've been trying to use their VA. They lived in the same house 17 years. They've been wanting to move, and they've just had their asses handed to them.
Sucks.
And, so finally I just sat down with Erica, and I'm like, look, we need to buy them a house. And so, most people would look at me cross-eyed. Erica's like, okay, so, we pulled our investor resources that we have, and we were able to go buy them a house. And because it was cash, we were able to negotiate a little bit more on it, and it was through one of the online buyer people that bought it. And so I just wish we had met the seller before the online buyer got to him. But we were able to solve the problem for that person. And not only did we do that, but Wendy was able to go in and remodel the kitchen.
Yeah.
And we just sold it. We just sold it back to them. We waited to sell their house. That's the next piece of it. But point being is that's the contribution I get to make, and it's not just me. So Grant Cardone talks about it's not your ability, how much money your ability to give. It's your ability to get others to give. Right. Mm-hmm. So how you can raise funds.
Right.
So you can only give so much, but can you get other people? So
crowdfunding.
Right. So when I look at it, my contribution is connecting the dots. I can take my investors and pool it in to solve the problem for this buyer, and everybody wins in that. And that's really where I get to contribute by using my resources to help contribute to this person.
Right.
And that's kind of the fun part about what I'm doing. And it's also one of those things where I try to share with the sellers that we're buying houses from them that, hey, yes, I'm buying your house, maybe at a little bit of a discount, but it's also helping me solve the problem down here.
Totally. I think it's so awesome to approach real estate that way because, even a long time ago, we talked about the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
The leaderboard is not something that some people get really super attached to. And at the end of the day, it's just, that number just reflects how attached you are to your business as opposed to, being attached to an outcome as opposed to being attached to a purpose.
Right.
And I think being attached to a purpose is so much better because that ends up feeding the leaderboard anyway.
Right. So when I look at, contribution also contributes to legacy.
Yep.
So when I look at like this family, the legacy with them, with their kids, who they've shared it to, they both wrote amazing posts on Facebook about being the place that they're at right now.
Shared. I love that. That was so awesome.
That's like,
that's everything, right?
Zero given. If that's the one transaction,
#ZFG.
Yeah. If that's the one transaction I do this year, then I feel like I fulfilled my purpose in that place, and everything else is gravy on that.
I almost feel like you're bored with a regular transaction. The hairier, the better for you. Like,
well, I mean,
because there's more like joy and fulfillment in actually in solving a problem for somebody.
Correct.
Or helping, making a contribution, making a difference.
So, I was on, I think it was episode 72 of Chris Harder's For the Love of Money podcast. And this is when I had just met Chris. And I love Chris's slogan. It's that, good people make great money. They do great things. Mm-hmm. And, I remember talking to him about how we set giving goals at the beginning of the year.
Giving like monetary?
Monetary goals. And it kind of goes back to the tithing thing, the biblical tithing thing of 10% of your income. But where it kind of changes a little bit is some people like, we're going to give 10% of our income. So whatever we make, we'll give. But what if you wanted to give 6 figures this year, which means if I'm committed to giving 6 figures, that means I'm committed to earning 7 figures.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a backwards way to look at it. So I think that everybody has their contribution, and I think if that's one of the goals that is commonly missed when you're going through, and I think it's something to sit back and think about.
I think everybody, when they're structuring their real estate business, should think about the ways in which what they're doing can make a difference. I mean, they're in the perfect scenario to learn about the people that they're working with, right? The buyer or the seller. Discover causes, and then craft a business around what you can do to make a difference.
And I think it's cool too, where, I know some real estate agents where they're contributing a portion of their commission to their client's charity of choice as well, which is great because then it kind of ties it all back. You're contributing to something that they're passionate about. I know I've got a great friend who I work with a little bit, Marshall Morris, who his contribution is really cool. He owns a company called I Heart Dogs in California. I know your kind of company, but for, they do a meal for meal match in their company, and they raise all kinds of crazy funds for shelters and things like that. Just he's such a fun loving dude.
Yeah.
Like he's super smart.
I feel like too, like Arizona is such a great platform, like such a great place to land to build from, right? To create stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people here that aren't from here.
Yep.
Right?
True.
So a lot of people are coming here and they're starting over, or something has happened to give them this opportunity to get into real estate, right? So I think that would be, I think this is a great place to be able to start stuff like that.
Absolutely. Okay. So the next thing is the net worth goal.
Yeah.
So again, we listen to everybody talk about their goals. So they're trying to increase their income, decrease their debt, spend more time with their family, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And very rarely in real estate do I hear people say, well, I've got a net worth goal. I want to increase my net worth by $100,000 this year.
Says that.
Right. Which is, it's something that doesn't equate to money in the bank, but it equates to legacy and retirement down the road. And I think it's something that, especially in the real estate industry, but I think it applies to anybody where they should be looking at the net worth.
Well, but I mean, so it all sounds great. Like, oh, that's true. I should probably be thinking about my net worth. But what is that really, like, what's the grit on that? I mean, how do you grab any traction on that? Like, what is that? What am I supposed to do today to increase my net worth?
But okay, so, increasing net worth is, there's a ton of different ways to do it, even no matter what part of life you're in. There's little ways that you can do it. So like, a friend of mine, JP, he does an infinity whole life policy. You can contribute $100 a month or $1,000 a month or, $50,000 a year to it. It's a whole life policy that also acts as a bank down the road as it creates, as it gets some legs on it after you invest in a little bit. So it does increase a little bit. So you have to figure out, like, there's baby steps to starting your net worth. So, if you're saving money every month, it could increase your net worth. If you're buying some real estate where over the last year, it's kind of funny you talk about it, like people that bought a house that increased 20 to 25% this year, they've increased their net worth by 20 or 25% if they didn't go pull the equity out and buy boats and stupid shit. Right. So those are all little things. There's also like, hey, you're investing a little bit in the stock market. You bought some GameStop, right?
Yeah. I'm all over Robinhood.
Right. So, but there's little ways that people should be looking at how do I increase my net worth so that it is something they're tracking.
Where does someone start to even know what it is?
Well, a net worth, like I said, it's your assets minus your liabilities. So if you have a $200,000 house and that's the value of it and you owe $150 on it, you have a $50,000 net worth.
So but what about all the other stuff people own? Or because if you buy a boat, is that an asset?
Well, the value of it, right?
Okay.
If you own it free and clear, it's an asset. Anything that you have, the furniture you have, they own free and clear. Your kids are definitely a liability.
What about dogs?
Right. So you're starting to look at, how that net worth is handled. So, if you have the $200,000 house, you owe $150 on it, and you've got a $20,000 car that you owe $20,000 on or $25,000 on. That's the truth,
That's
right?
True.
Then your net worth is $25,000.
Okay.
So you do have to reduce all those liabilities out of it to get what your net worth is. So when you hear somebody talk about high net worth individuals, that's what they're equating to is their assets minus their liabilities. So every year we have to do it for small business, for the building that we own, where they want a personal financial, and the personal financial is listing out your assets, their value, and your liabilities, and what you owe against things, which equates to your net worth.
Right. So what would be a good goal for an average person to whether you're a realtor or just a professional out there, I want to increase by 10%, 15%. Is it a dollar amount? Does it matter?
I don't think
we've never talked about this before. So
no, I don't, it's something that, I wish somebody had that conversation with me when I started in the business or even earlier in life. This is how you get to there. So I think the net worth goal.
There's a lot of platforms out there's Mint. There's a free platform. I actually think it does your net worth for you.
Does it?
Yeah. But I'm just curious because, a lot of people probably don't know what to put in there to create it, even if it's coming out of a software program.
Right.
There's probably other stuff to add.
It's a simple Excel sheet. It's a simple, yellow pad. Here's what I owe on my total debt and here's what my total value is. And how do I make it different?
Yeah.
To where the liabilities are decreasing. So some of the ways you can do that is maybe I'm going to buy a rental property that, it has liability, but it's increasing in value. So if you look at last year, if you'd bought a rental property and at the end of the year, you increased your net worth by $30,000 without doing anything. Now that's that year. It can go up and down depending on what the market's doing. Same thing with, hey, I invested in Bitcoin 10 years ago and now, my net worth is increased by $8 billion because Elon Musk said to invest in it.
At that point, I would just stop tracking. I'd be like, I don't need to track my net worth anymore.
What's up?
You guys, you and Eden are young and starting out. Have you ever had this conversation, the two of you, about net worth at the end of the year?
I think yes, but only because of you recently. I can say before we joined the team, no.
Awesome.
I had goals. We had other goals outside, but since we've joined the team, obviously you've changed our mindset. So
do you think it's commonly missed?
Totally.
When you're going through and talking about the goals this year, so Bernie asked a question where does somebody start? So where do you think you and Eden would start in net worth? Have you guys ever gone down and tracked your liabilities and what things are valued at?
Yeah, we started looking at it now. Obviously, our first home is our primary goal, and making that decision and making that purchase the right decision. Right. Not just buying a house because it looks pretty and we like it, but buying the one that makes sense on numbers.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So those are little ways. And some of that is, the goals that I've worked with Kyle and Eden on is hey, we want to try to find something with a little bit of value in the property because it's going to increase your net worth by having that value in it.
For sure. So, okay, recap the three things.
So I think three things that you should be considered, and we go back all the way to, I forget which episode it is, the 90-day goals.
Yeah.
Where you could reset.
New Year's resolutions.
Right. You could reset in the next 90 days and say, okay, well, I want to have a plan to increase my net worth.
Oh my God, that's awesome, right? To make a 90-day game plan for incorporating these ideas.
Look, you can increase your net worth just by paying debt off.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the common enemy of net worth is debt or liabilities. So then, net worth, talking about net worth, hey, what is my net worth goal down the road? My net worth goal is about $50 million of net worth. It's a long way away, but adding properties to it, cars, depending on the cars we're adding to it, they could be liabilities.
Cars and handbags.
Right. Cars. Wait.
Handbags increase in value.
Only because of the junk you put in them.
Nuh-uh. You don't know anything about handbags.
Handbags and shoes for you, that's where you're valuing your net worth.
Handbags. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when a designer dies, that bag's worth just as much as when you paid for it.
Have you seen the bags I've designed?
The brown paper bags.
The brown paper bags. Smart ass. Starting with your, and again, these can all start whenever, but like your contribution goal.
Yeah.
What do you want to give? It could be $5. It could be, hey, it's kind of like the Dave Ramsey envelope system. You could set $20 a month cash to give to people. Right? Yeah. You can contribute towards the person in front of you in the McDonald's line, like, hey, I'm going to buy their meal. Those are just small ways. It doesn't have to be, so many people think like, well, my giving and my contribution, it's got to be so big. You got to start small.
Do something.
Because if you're not doing it small, you're not going to do it when you have more money.
Yeah. And generosity, I think, is just this cornerstone for feeling good, right? Yeah. I mean, doing it for the sake of doing it, right? And what do you think about time when it comes to contribution?
Oh, I think that's a great one. I mean, what do we have to give? We have time, talent, and treasure, right? So,
I love that. I've never heard you say that before.
That's biblical. That's biblical. Those are the three things that God gave us. And some of us may not be in a financial position to give, but we have time that we can give. Yep. So you trade time for money. There was an old school sermon that I listened to, and I remember it was called Kings and Priests. And that was kind of the time in my life where, we were pretty deep into the real estate business, but it was one of those things where I wanted to be a king. And so what they talked about in the biblical sense was kings are those that are successful in their business and they're doing things, and they're doing it from the standpoint that they want to be able to write the checks for the priests, and the priests were the ones that went out and preached the gospel and did the good works, right? So I always wanted to be one of those people. I want to write checks. I don't always have the time to give, but there's other people that enjoy giving the time, and if I can support those people in that aspect, that's what I want to do as far as my giving. But back to time, you can volunteer for so many different things. Totally. I know in COVID times, the volunteering is a little bit different, but there's
still ways, right?
There's still ways. There's all kinds of ways.
Yeah. So contribution is either like decide a small step, like teeny tiny contribution is a contribution, or your time. Yeah. Find something that you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your passion? Yeah. Where are you solving problems and
finding purpose, intention.
Yeah. Finding purpose and intention in your goals.
For sure.
Jeez.
This is a good one.
Okay, let's recap. Okay. We just did that twice. Goals, contribution and giving, figure out where to start, what to give, and then your net worth increase by figuring out, your assets minus your liabilities, and have that as a 90-day or an annual review of did we do better or worse? Because I think that does give you some legs on where do you want to get. And I think it's also something that you can start looking at. What do I want my net worth goal to be?
Yes.
Whether you're 20 or you're 40,
right,
or you're 60, whatever the case may be. What do you want to?
50.
Because your net worth is ultimately going to create your legacy.
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I love that. I love the idea of talking about the contribution piece and the net worth piece in terms of your business, especially in real estate. I mean, you could definitely make your day-to-day as a real estate practitioner so much more fulfilling.
Exactly.
So much more.
So I think that those are just goals that we add to, income. In the real estate terms, it's, your income or your GCI and your transactions is that, hey, how do I also increase these things as well?
Totally.
All right, guys, appreciate you. We will see you next time here on Thinking OTB. And this week we are outside the box with contribution and net worth goals.
Contribution and net worth. Two things.
As we're trying to contribute. Peace out.